Hello, I'm the pageant nerd. Today I've thrown together a little clip about controversies, which is bound to stir up some of its own. I've been challenged by my fabulous subscriber Richard Marker to do a video on the most controversial victories at Miss Universe. This is sort of a companion piece to my recent video, my top 10 favourite winning performances, though in this countdown I'm only looking at victories of the new millennium. While this is undoubtedly a subjective list, I've tried to focus on actual events and general sentiment and uproar. This is not a list of victories that I didn't agree with, to be clear. The controversy may have arisen the second the Queen was crowned. It might have been after a few minutes, hours, or even months. In short, the debate over these victories didn't always happen in the same manner. In fact, each of the 5 I mention here all had controversy attached to them in different ways. And while some of my comments may imply I think there were more deserving winners in particular years, at the end of the day I absolutely celebrate each of the queens that wore the crown. Alright, without further ado, let's dive into my top 5 most controversial Miss Universe victories since 2000. The controversy in this victory was of a more localised nature, namely in the Venezuelan pageant community. Aside from accusations that Amelia Vega was arrogant to her fellow contestants, her victory enraged Venezuelans because she was trained by the Miss Venezuela impresario himself, Osmel. Osmel, head of the Miss Venezuela organisation from the early 1980s to 2018, had become regarded as a pageant trainer of the absolute highest order, thanks to multiple Miss World, Universe and International titles, putting him in great demand, even from non-Venezuelan contenders.
La primera finalista es Miss Distrito Capital y Miss Venezuela 2012, Miss Aragua.
The participation of Miss Venezuela, Maria Ángel Ruiz, in Miss Universe 2003 was reportedly in doubt on 2 fronts. Firstly, Osmel was said to be unhappy with Ruiz's weight gain and poor preparation, threatening to send Miss Venezuela's first runner-up to Panama instead, and placing Maria Ángel on supposed standby. Secondly, and with Maria Angel's participation now confirmed, the dire economic situation in Venezuela meant local organisers were unable to fund her trip. After worldwide media attention and intervention from Panama's president, Miss Venezuela franchise holder the Cisneros organisation raised the cash required to send Maria Ángel to Miss Universe, albeit late and just before the registration deadline. But while all that drama was unfolding in Venezuela, the foundations of another scandal were being laid. Osmel agreed to train 18-year-old Amelia Vega, Miss República Dominicana, for 1 week before she traveled to Panama.
Entrenamiento en Venezuela. Bueno, mira, mi entrenamiento se puede decir que un 90% fue en República Dominicana. Tuve desde que gané hasta hace un mes que fui a Venezuela solamente por 10 días. Hace un mes y pico que fui a Venezuela, pues como digo yo, el material, el postre, cuando yo lo tienes listo, el carro, que le den el último chequeo, ¿no? ¿Y quién es mejores que los venezolanos? Ustedes que son realmente los dueños de la belleza, tienen el azar de la belleza, Osmel.
And while it was commonplace at the time for Osmel to train international as well as Venezuelan queens for major pageants, the final results at Miss Universe 2003 put an immediate end to that practice. For not only did Vega end up winning the crown, the Dominican Republic's only Miss Universe to date, she did so by relegating Ruiz into second place, who far exceeded Osmel's expectations while defying his directions on how she should be styled and dressed, much less made up and in a bold coloured gown, breaking the mould of recent Miss Venezuelas at the time. Would Amelia have won without Osmel's training? We'll never know. But for the remainder of Osmel's time at Miss Venezuela, there was never again an opportunity for the homegrown queen to be upstaged by an import. When a beauty queen has a questionable passarella, trips over in evening gown and contradicts herself in the final question, while one of her competitors delivers a knockout answer, does that warrant a Miss Universe title? In 2012, and if you're Miss USA Olivia Culpo, apparently so. A prime example of when it was someone's destiny to be Miss Universe, whether by heavenly intervention or decision-making of the pageant organisation itself.
But today, where there's so many surgeries and so many people out there who have a need to change for a happier life.
Olivia is undeniably a beautiful, intelligent, incredibly well-spoken queen who delivered one of the best answers in pageantry to win the Miss USA title, and who's gone on to achieve a lot in her career. But the value of finals night performance was put into question after her victory in Las Vegas.
What is something you have done that you would never do again?
But something I've done I've regretted would probably be picking on my siblings growing up, because you appreciate them so much more as you grow older, you get closer with your family, but everybody fights with their siblings, right? So, but I don't regret it.
There they are, right there, waving to you.
USA.
They're like, thanks, sis.
It didn't help that Olivia's first runner-up represented one of the most pageant-crazy nations on earth, who struggled to understand how their bet had to settle for second place after her mic drop answer and a near-flawless performance all night.
Listen, as an international ambassador, do you believe that speaking English should be a prerequisite to being Miss Universe? Why or why not?
For me, being Miss Universe is not just about knowing how to speak a specific language. It's being able to influence and inspire other people. So whatever language you have, as long as your heart is to serve and you have a strong mind to show to people, then you can be Miss Universe. Thank you.
In the early stages of its eventual 12-year placement streak, the Philippines saw an opportunity in Janine Tugonon for its long-awaited third Miss Universe crown. And while it ended up achieving just that a mere 3 years later, adding a fourth in 2018, many Filipino followers to this day feel Janine's finals night efforts were more than enough to warrant that title. But it had been 15 years since the USA's most recent Miss Universe victory, Brooke Lee in 1997. And with such a strong delegate in Olivia Culpo, who also benefited from mega favourite Venezuela's Irene Esser getting tongue-tied in her final question, it was ultimately decided that overall potential trumped finals night performance. To be fair, there have been poorer final question responses that have delivered a Miss Universe crown, and Olivia has certainly made the most of her opportunities, even coming back to host Miss Universe a couple of times, most recently to see up close the next American woman after her to win the crown. While the very first two Miss World pageants saw back-to-back victories for Sweden in 1951 and 52, the first back-to-back at Miss Universe didn't occur until the 57th and 58th editions. It nearly happened in 1994 and 95, with India's Manpreet Brar placing first runner-up after Sushmita Sen took her country's first Miss Universe title. And in the following 2 years, the same pattern was repeated by Venezuela, with Alicia Machado's win, followed by Marina Bencomo's second place. So with a Stefanía Fernández standing hand in hand with Ada Aime de la Cruz, Venezuela versus Dominican Republic, Venezuelans believed a first runner-up finish was as good as a Stefanía could achieve. A back-to-back was still considered beyond the realms of possibility.
First runner-up is Dominican Republic, which means Miss Universe is Miss Venezuela again.
But against all odds, it was third time lucky, as two almost back-to-backs were surpassed. Venezuela, to this day, the only nation to win consecutive Miss Universe titles. While Diana Mendoza's victory a year earlier in Vietnam was predicted by many, virtually no one, even Venezuelans, expected a Stefanía to repeat the feat in the Bahamas. In fact, in the lead-up to finals night, and especially after a divisive performance in prelims, some were predicting Venezuela might not place at all in 2009, the third time in the past 6 years.
And the final spot in the top 15 goes to Venezuela!
Fernández being called last into the top 15 just added to the drama and impression, whether true or not, that she barely made it into the semi-finals. And while she placed fourth in swimsuits to make the top 10, Stefanía came fifth in evening gowns to sneak into the top 5. But in an unremarkable final question round, in which none of the top 5 nailed it, it was Fernández's composure belying her 18 years, and less to do with the content of her answer that impressed the judges the most.
Yo creo que hoy en día ya las mujeres hemos superado bastantes obstáculos. Y pienso
I believe that nowadays we women have overcome many obstacles, and I do believe
que ya hemos llegado al nivel de los hombres.
that we have reached the same level as men have.
Tenemos que darnos cuenta que ya no existen fronteras entre nosotros.
We must realize that there are no longer any barriers amongst us.
It was rumoured that Donald Trump denied Marilisa Gibson a top 15 position at Miss Universe 2010 to remove any chance Venezuela could achieve a third consecutive title, and thus draw allegations of favouritism by other countries.
Stefanía me contó que Trump decidió sacarme, literalmente dijo no, Venezuela no va este año, y Stefanía no, pero los ratings, ¿por qué no? Dijo que no, porque, y entiendo su punto de vista también, la verdad es que yo no lo culpo y al final todo pasa por una razón, pero me sacó diciendo ya hay países que han dicho que no quieren volver al Miss Universo porque Venezuela ha ganado ya 2 veces y si gana una tercera vez no vuelven. Y no puedo arriesgarme de esa manera. Entonces, es ahí la razón por la cual yo no quedé en el top 15 de esa noche.
Whether or not Stefanía's victory was expected, celebrated, or deemed worthy, she and Diana got themselves a Guinness World Record with their historic back-to-back. Thank you to my pageant friend in Venezuela, Elias Castillo, for his insights. The prevailing theory over Oxana Fedorova's shortened reign as Miss Universe in 2002 was that she was dethroned for failing to perform her duties. But in a fascinating online chat in late 2021 with Miss Universe 2005 Natalie Glebova, conducted in a mix of English and Russian, Oxana presented her version of events to an English-speaking audience more or less for the first time. In recalling her Miss Universe experience, some of which was already known, some of it new, Oxana explained she only secured her US visa for Puerto Rico the day before the arrival cutoff because of diplomatic tensions between Russia and the USA.
And I've got the letter from the Miss Universe organization. They told me 1 day more, so it will not happen with you as a contest. So the next day, tomorrow you have to be in San Juan. If not, okay, so bye-bye.
Then, when her original evening gown was rejected by the Miss Universe organisation, she had to source another one from home. What a fateful predicament. Despite her chaotic preparations, Oxana's now iconic white Gucci bridal gown, which arrived in San Juan just 2 days earlier, stole the show on finals night. She then achieved the highest ever swimsuit score in the pageant's history, and responding to the final question, "What makes you blush?" instead of the now famous answer,
when I say the wrong things.
A more accurate translation would be, "When I tell lies."
The first runner-up is Panama.
Nonetheless, the crown was undeniably hers, edging Panama's Justine Pasek for the title. After 4 months as Miss Universe, Oxana became the first and so far only title holder to relinquish that crown, returning to Russia to complete her law degree. Seemingly she hadn't counted on winning Miss Universe and was only allowed to miss 1 month of her studies. Oxana told Natalie that if she remained in New York, she would have lost her place at the university, something she wasn't prepared to do.
What Oxana just told me, and it's something that everyone should understand, is that before winning Miss Universe, she had invested a lot of time and energy and effort into her studies and the thing that was the most important thing in her life at that time. So winning, of course, Miss Universe was such an unexpected surprise, and it was beautiful, wonderful moment, what she said. But living in New York for 5 months and doing the responsibilities as Miss Universe made Oxana question her life going forward.
When was the last time you had sex?
Her decision to resign was in part instigated by an offensive interview with radio shock jock Howard Stern, in which Oxana was asked about her sexual preferences and whether she'd sell her body for pantyhose. But that wasn't the story that ended up sticking. Interestingly, if you watch the press conference in which Justine Pasek was crowned as Oxana's replacement, even former MUO co-owner Donald Trump, famous for his apprentice exclamation, "You're fired," was somewhat non-committal in explaining what happened.
That Oxana is saying she broke the contract herself, voluntarily. Is it true?
Well, I can respond to that because Paula, the president of the Miss Universe organization, called me, and Paula gave her a chance to resign for the purposes of getting this done nicely and quickly and everything else. And when Oxana was unable to resign or didn't resign, Paula had no choice but to terminate her. So,
did she give up her crown?
Well, essentially she gave it up one way or the other.
A much greyer area than the straight-out dethronement that became the footnote of her incomplete reign. The very next day, Oxana offered her side of the story upon her return to Russia. But given the press conference was conducted in her native language, it was Trump's and Shugart's versions of events that embedded itself within the pageant world and beyond. In his time as co-owner of the Miss Universe organization, Donald Trump also threatened to fire Miss Universe 1996 Alicia Machado for weight gain and Miss USA 2006 Tara Conner for her unruly behaviour and alcoholism. Unlike Oxana, both Alicia and Tara ended up keeping their jobs and completing their reigns.
Miss Philippines, take your first walk as Miss Universe.
It doesn't get more controversial than the wrong woman being crowned. Had Steve Harvey done his job properly and correctly read the results on the card in his very hand, few would have questioned Pia Wurtzbach's victory. Ariadna Gutierrez might have been a gracious first runner-up, and Steve might not have been rewarded with hosting the pageant another 5 times. But back to the real world, and this is a mystery we may never get to the bottom of. For the 0.001% of you watching this that don't know what happened, here's the lowdown. At Miss Universe 2015, the first since Donald Trump split from the MUO after nearly 20 years as co-owner, Pia and Ariadna, representing the Philippines and Colombia respectively, both performed brilliantly all night and emerged as the final two. For Gutierrez, the prospect of a back-to-back for Colombia after Paulina Vega's win the year before was evident on her face seconds before the initial, yes, initial, proclamation.
Colombia!
Wurtzbach's reaction was one of accepting her fate. An incredible result nonetheless, seemingly the second first runner-up finish for the Philippines in 4 years. But oddly, Gutierrez wasn't instructed to take her traditional walk and remained in the very spot she was crowned. Meanwhile, offstage, realizing his mistake, Steve Harvey was talking to production staff about how and when to correct the situation. But for those handful of minutes, Ariadna Gutierrez was apparently Miss Universe 2015, wearing the crown and sash, until her world came crashing down around her. Steve was apparently told to let the results stand overnight and allow it to be corrected in the morning. But he took matters into his own hands and sought to make it right then and there.
I have to apologize. Runner-up is Colombia.
Oh my God! No! Oh my God! Oh my God! No puede ser. No puede ser. No puede ser.
Universe 2015 is Philippines. Runner-up is Colombia. Miss Universe 2015 is Philippines.
Without a script to rely upon, and with Paulina now back on stage, standing in between Ariadna and Pia, in front of a confused and stunned Las Vegas crowd, Steve tried to set the record straight.
This is exactly what's on the card. I will take responsibility for this. It was my mistake. It was on the card. Horrible mistake, but the right thing, I can show it to you right here. The first runner-up is Colombia. It is my mistake.
This is not supposed to happen.
Delegates ended up taking sides, some consoling an inconsolable Gutierrez, while others congratulating Wurtzbach in a manner that felt just a little anticlimactic. Pia, robbed of her ultimate moment of triumph, tried to comfort Ariadna herself, but was prevented from doing so. With the benefit of hindsight, she might have done that when sharing the stage with her immediately after the correct result was announced. It made you appreciate the previous hosts who just got it right. Steve Harvey did not get it right that night. So much so that it left some people with the belief that Ariadna Gutierrez was the rightful winner, a victim of a horrible conspiracy.
Colombia, is there anything you want to say to your fans?
No, everything happens for a reason, so I'm happy. I'm happy for all what I did for becoming this dream true, so I'm so happy.
It's a very non-traditional crowning moment, isn't it? Yeah, it's very 2015.
Ultimately, both Pia and Ariadna became some of the most well-known winners and first runners-up in Miss Universe history. There was the expected reality show-style reunion on US TV between Steve and Ariadna, and Steve and Pia. Notably, not all three of them together, Steve putting on his best mask of remorse. Rumours circulated that Steve skipped some rehearsals, but both Ariadna and Pia stuck by Steve, claiming that wasn't the case. Having said that, Ariadna called out Steve for mispronouncing her name as Ariana on his TV show.
You keep making mistakes. It's not Ariana. It's Ariadna.
Ariadna. See?
His response? To blame the teleprompter for having it incorrectly. Heaven forbid he knew her name anyway. A small thing, but to me hugely telling of someone with little knowledge of, and more importantly, concern and care for the pageant world. Steve Harvey has since regretted taking the blame for the mishap, instead stating on multiple occasions he was merely following instructions to read the auto cue and the next name on the card, even though the card itself clearly stated each country's final position. And most inaccurately, claiming that the announcement format had changed for the 2015 pageant, even though that format had been in place since 2011.
You should have left it alone.
I should have let them fix it in the newspaper. My stupid walked right out there and took the full hit, man. I took it dead in the teeth, like it was all my fault, and it wasn't.
And it would appear that the two queens never let bygones be bygones. Well, Ariadna at least. Years after the incident, Ariadna was still throwing shade at Pia, saying she didn't notice her in the pageant lead-up, that she was like a ghost. As she had done just seconds after the corrected announcement, Miss Universe Bulgaria supported Pia and rebuffed Ariadna's remarks, implying they lacked class and reinforced the judge's decision that day in 2015, even if the host's first announcement didn't reflect that. So, what do you think of my countdown of most controversial Miss Universe victories? Do you have any others in mind? Leave them respectfully in the comments below. Okay, that's all for today. If you enjoyed this clip, you know the drill. Please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and hitting thanks if you're able to support this channel. And thank you for watching. I'll be back soon with my next video. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me, the Pageant Nerd.